Hey everyone, Tyler here with GetJeeping. Today we're going to be installing the Rubicon Express 4.5-inch leaf springs here on one of my project Jeeps. You see this is bone stock under here. You know, it's pretty nasty with different parts and whatnot. And we're going to be removing the sway bar and the leaf spring itself. It's a real simple process here on the rear than the front. All you really need is a 12mm socket for the front eye here, as well as the rear eye. You're going to need a wrench like this. Always helps to hold on the back bolt here on the nut part where your leaf spring mounts into where your shackle is. Up here, this is 18mm nut, as well as your shock bolt you're going to have to remove. One of the biggest things I recommend is start soaking, you know, with a BP blaster or some other form of penetrating oil. Start soaking the stuff. I've actually been coming out here a couple of times a week and doing these just to, you know, get it off a little bit easier, and I've already soaked the other two. You want to go ahead and grab yourself a breaker bar for different bolts just to get in there. I highly recommend it if you have an impact wrench or you know, a wrench like this that's air. Get one of those because it makes your life a whole lot easier. I've done these lifts on these vehicles for several years, and for the longest time I've done just hand tools. I mean, you know, battery powered, and so I highly recommend getting some kind of air tools. First, we're going to go ahead and remove our shock mount down here. The bolt itself, it's 18mm, and then we're going to move on up here to get this piece. See our rear shock mount down here, it's an 18mm bolt. Going to put this thing in reverse and stick her on here. And you see how easy that took off. Now I did loosen that, I've taken these shocks off before, but it does really come off that easy. Go ahead and take your bolt and your washer out. One of these always comes in handy. Stick this one on like this. There we go. And now that's off, and that's all we need to do there. Next we're going to go ahead and move up to the leaf perch. This part's pretty simple. You got a U-bolt here and the back here, and then you got your sway bar here, which doesn't really make sense on leaf springs, so I don't know why Jeep ever put it there. You got 4 nuts you need to take off. Go ahead and take your impact gun here. And it's okay if these break because it doesn't really matter because you're not reusing them. Once you have that removed, you can go ahead and untighten these nuts. The spring perch should just lift right off just like that. And we're going to reuse that for our lift. But you can go ahead and pull out these U-bolts. And then we can actually pull this piece out since we're disconnected from the other side. Now that we actually have the both sides done, we go ahead and lower the axle. And you see now the axle is lowered and it is loose. So we're going to go ahead and take our leaf springs out. Next step on installing these Rubicon Express 4.5-inch leaf springs, we need to remove the stock. You know, we already removed the axle and the clip piece down over here, but next is the front eye bolt. This is probably the worst bolt because it's just a bolt, no nut, and so the other side usually gets rusted in there. I've done a couple, more than a couple, quite a few lifts, and most of the time these end up rusting in there or they get stuck in the sleeve inside the leaf. And so what I end up doing is cutting off this end once I actually get this bolt far enough out of here, and then I have to pry this piece out once I have the rear leaf unmounted from the shackle. So you can see I got it pretty much all the way out. I'm going to keep cranking on it because possibly it's going to come free. I finally found my right ratchet I needed for this. Can't find my 1/2 inch, so I'm going to use an adapter. But it's pretty tight in there, so that is, so far it tells me I'm out here, but I'm not out up here. So a trick that I've learned in the past is take something like this or just a wrench and stick it up behind there and press on it so that as you're turning it loosens the bolt up in here. That way you can get it free. Like I was saying, gonna stick this right up here. ahead and put your foot on it. Yes, I'm wearing Crocs, I know. So luckily this side decided to come out nicely. You can see right there, bolts out. The other side had to cut and pull it out. I actually have to re-tap this back hole because it's destroyed now. So let's go ahead and move to the rear and undo the shackle. Here on the rear leaf spring you have a bolt here and nut on this end. I already started loosening it, so all you're going to need for it, you're going to need to take your wrench and your 21mm socket. You can go ahead and loosen that up. Once you have it all loose, you can go ahead and pull your bolt out. The next step you need, guys, is we're going to go ahead and start putting our leaf spring up here. Go ahead and get your bolts. I am reusing the stock bolt for the back piece here, but I am going to be using a new bolt, and this is a 9/16 bolt. They didn't have a 14mm this long, so I went with a grade 8 with washers and a nut for the rear, just because my rear ones are kind of messed up. So we're going to go ahead and use these. This is the stock one. This is a 14mm with a 2.5 pitch. So it's going to go in there nicely. We are going to put some anti-seize on this for our future, just to help us out. The bolt size is it's a 21mm. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and throw some anti-seize on here. Wipe that down a little. Plenty on there. That's really going to help out in the future, when these things decide not to come out. Definitely going to help out. Alright, hardest part, trying to get this thing up here without bumping the camera. Alright. Hopefully my head's not in the way either. Alright. Gotta move the back a little. Hey, you just want to get that snug. You want to wait until you put the whole Jeep down on the ground and then start torquing these off. Don't know the torque spec on that, but you can always Google it, make it real simple. Now we can go ahead and do the rear with this bolt. See, the head on this one is also a 21. I did bring my hammer, but I need to slide it in better. Don't really need any anti-seize on this one since it's not too complicated to take off. Of course, you have a wrench on your side. Let's go ahead. Pick her up as I bump the camera. The trick I like to use is I stick a 2x4 under here like this. Actually, I'm going to use a longer one, that way I can put it against that brace right there. She dropped this jack down a little. So I just want to show you what I'm looking at. I have this 2x4 set up here. I'm jacking this up, and what that's doing is it's pushing the eye out a little. Or actually a lot. Just be careful your jack doesn't slip, because that'd really hurt. It's a little off. You see what I did here? I pushed up and it's pushing up on here as I'm jacking. You want your jack to be perpendicular with this, because if you're this way it starts to roll. So once you get that bolt in there, you can just tap it in. Don't tighten this upper bolt. You might want to loosen it just so you have more room with this, but don't tighten either one of these or the nut until the vehicle's all the way on the ground. So to finish up this Rubicon Express 4.5-inch leaf, we're going to go ahead and raise up this end of the axle to match this. I already got the other side done, so we need to bring up this side and go ahead and put our plate on top. One thing we got to keep in mind is this plate right here. This bolt is Sometimes on these, for some reason, it's bigger or smaller. In this case, it was bigger, and so I drilled this hole out to 3/4 to use my stock plates since they were still in good shape, not all rusted out. Let's go ahead and get a jack under this. Now that we have a jack under our axle, we're going to go ahead and jack it up. And bottom of this bolt's going to have a head, and in this axle there's actually a little hole. And we just want to line things up into that hole. Alright, I can tell we did it. Line it up just like this. Looks like we got in there pretty well. So this is a Chrysler 8 1/4, so we picked up some U-bolts for this size axle. Go ahead and put our U-bolts on. Side one in just like that. The other one goes through the back of the spring perch. Alright, go ahead and take our spring plate. And your U-bolts should come with applied hardware. Should be a washer and a nut. Now that we're at this point, you want to go ahead and take your wrench, and we're all the way done, so we can't go any further with our wrench, I believe. With our impact that we just used, we'll see if we can go any further. No, that's it. We're going to go ahead and hold these up, and you want to do the tedious process of going all the way around. Once you get to this point, they're all snug. You want to just snug them all up the best you can, and go side to side with it so that we can get that spring perch. Now that you get this all tightened down, hand tight until we put the wheels tires on, let's go ahead and jack up the axle and stick our tire on both sides, and then we'll finish tightening these up and finish tightening up all the rest of the bolts on the rear. Now that I go with the Jeep all lifted up, we can go ahead and put our tires on. Tires and rims. Like that, and I got some nice new black lug nuts to go with it. So we got the Jeep back on the ground. The Rubicon Express springs look good. You see, next step is need to go ahead and tighten down these bolts as well as the front and the rear eye bolts, and we're set to go. There you guys go. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more. You can check us out at GetJeeping.com, as well as we're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can go ahead and check out East Coast Jeeps for helping us out with these leaf springs. Also check out Rubicon Express because they got great products, but pick these up from East Coast Jeeps, so check them out, and I'll see y'all in the next.